The following program is furnished by K1 International LLC and is responsible for its content. Now, from the fifth floor Cumulus Studios in downtown Dallas, it's time for Inside Real Estate. Here's your host, Michael Kruizinga.
Good morning, Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. How we doing out there? Welcome to your Sunday morning. Hey, it's Inside Real Estate. Mike Kruizinga here, your host and local DFW area realtor. Glad you tuned in. We got a great show for you today. Super special politics segment, Inside Politics segment coming up later in the show. Big time guest, Dinesh D'Souza is going to be on the show later today in the Inside Politics segment, so we're super excited about that. We're going to talk to him about Hillary's America, the book and the documentary, as well as Stealing America, the book from late last year as well. Those two books kind of, almost companion books, kind of go together, so we're going to talk to him about that, so we're looking forward to it. But, of course, we also have our local flavor, which we're always bringing to you every Sunday morning, which is what we do for a living. You know, we love coming in here and doing the radio show and bringing you some great entertainment and some politics, news, and entertainment and sports from the national scene. But, of course, we mix that very uniquely with our local flavor and what we all do for a living, which is real estate, insurance, mortgage, home improvement, foundation repair, and all those types of things. And we've gotten a lot of great feedback. And by the way, thank you for the support out there. You know, folks have, emailed me and said, hey, we really enjoy the special interviews that you guys do. And one of the reasons why I think, folks like them is that, hey, we're regular folks. We have regular jobs and, we kind of bring a unique perspective with our questions and our discussions, and we do our homework. We read the books of these authors that come on the show, although a lot of broadcasters don't. And we just have normal, regular conversations from the regular Joe perspective. We're not professional pundits, and that goes a long way, and people like that. I'm not trying to slant anything, just having normal conversations, and so people seem to really be enjoying that. Yesterday, I had put out a little bit of information on the neighborhood, website. I don't do a lot of social media. Sam kind of helps do all that for us, but went on to the Next Door program and, put out that we were going to have a special guest today and get some good feedback. But then there was this one lady, and she's in my neighborhood. And she just was lambasting the documentary. And I was like, wow, and she's one of my neighbors. And I was like, I didn't know she felt that way, but she did. But anyway, folks, we got a great show. By the way, we're going to be talking to Richard Tonica over at Goosehead Insurance here in a little while. We're going to be talking to Terry Wagner, Supreme Lending Rockwall. We're going to be talking to Jared Benson, Permapeer Foundation Repair, and we're going to have a really good show for you. Hey, by the way, next week, Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters, Fox News contributor, will be on the show for our politics segment next Sunday. Big-time Fox News contributor, and, of course, he's got a new book as well, so we're going to be talking to him next week, so that's going to be pretty big. What was going on? Hey, we're in a sports void right now. It's just that time of year where not much is going on in sports, and so it's been tough to kind of do that segment lately and talk about sports at all. But I did see one thing worth mentioning, and this was, Michael Jordan. We don't usually hear a lot from him at all. I've said previously on the show, to me, best ball player of all time. But he went ahead and came out and decided to speak on, the shootings that have been occurring. And so he donated $1 million to two different groups. By the way, the story is on theundefeated.com. So if you want the full story, and Sam will put this on our Pinterest page. We have a Pinterest page for every show that we do. Go to the Inside Real Estate Radio show, and then you can hit today's show. It's on theundefeated.com. Sam will put that up there, but he donated $1 million to two different groups and came out and just very politically correct said, look, sort of the all lives matter type of thing, certainly doing what he needed as an African American, saying what he needed to say that made him comfortable, but in a very politically correct way. But then also, supported the police as well, saying that, these types of shootings are unacceptable, et cetera. So, Jordan rarely comes out and talks about anything. So very interesting that he came out and he had a fair bit to say. And so, that might be worth talking about, or checking into, because like I said, Jordan rarely really talks about anything. So there you go. Hey, folks, we are going to take a short break, and then we're going to come on back. See you in a few.
Hiring people is probably the worst part of my job. It's such a hassle, the sorting through resumes. Most people don't have the right experience.
We started using ZipRecruiter about 3 months ago. Right from the start, you could tell it was going to make hiring a lot easier. One click and my job was posted to 100+ job boards, all the top sites.
All of the candidates came to my dashboard, and it's easy to compare them. Thumbs up if I liked them, thumbs down if I didn't. No emails and attachments, printing up docs, phone calls, none of that.
And I couldn't believe the number of great applicants we got. I had the person we needed within 1 week. I don't know how we hired before ZipRecruiter.
Whether you're looking to fill one position or 20, find the best candidates with ZipRecruiter, where your job is just one click away from 100+ job sites. ZipRecruiter, the fastest way to hire. And right now you can try ZipRecruiter free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/talkradio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/talkradio. ZipRecruiter.com/talkradio.
Living in the DFW area, expansive clay soil and extreme weather conditions play havoc on homes' foundation. But thankfully, you can turn to PermaPure Foundation Repair of Texas, who has successfully repaired over 20,000 properties and counting in the DFW area. With the most trusted, tried and true foundation repair methods, trust the professional staff of PermaPure Foundation Repair to take care of your property, and most repairs are backed by a lifetime transferable warranty. Mention Inside Real Estate Radio when calling PermaPure at 214-637-1444 or when booking online at permapure.com for your Inside Real Estate Radio discount.
Folks, it's Mike Kruizinga here with Inside Real Estate Sports Entertainment on 570 AM KLIF. Did you know that virtually all of us will experience a fall in the bathtub at some point in our life? Well, statistically, it's true, and as we get older, a fall in the bathtub can spell disaster, as we just can't recover the same as we did in our younger years. Don't let something as silly and preventable as a bathtub fall put an end to all your special plans you have lined up for your golden years. Invest in a Hydrojet walk-in bathtub. Made in the USA and with the lowest step in the industry, Hydrojet walk-in tubs has your best interest at heart. With no commission sales staff or huge warehouse overhead, they build and sell direct to you, saving you thousands of dollars over their competitors. Call Randy, my friend and owner of Hydrojet walk-in tubs at 855-980-8827 or go to hydrojetwalkintubs.com. You'll be able to speak with Randy directly, and make sure to mention you heard about it on the radio. And for you veterans out there, there's a grant available for you to cover the majority of the cost of a walk-in tub, making it darn near free. Call Randy at 855-980-8827 or go to hydrojetwalkintubs.com today.
With decades of experience, the Rocky Martin Supreme Lending Team will work to close your home loan in 30 days or less. With access to the most competitive interest rates, the most financing options, and the most access to down payment assistance programs, the Rocky Martin Team won't be beating service to you for all your mortgage needs, including purchase and refinance. Trust RockyMartin.com and his team for their reliable and fast loan process. Go to RockyMartin.com or call 972-772-1866 today.
For housing lender, NMLS ID number 211731-6730, Horizon Road, Suite B, Heath, Texas 75032.
Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey, folks, we are back. By the way, website InsideRealEstateRadio.com, InsideRealEstateRadio.com. You can always catch up with all of us and all of our partners of the show at that website. And then, of course, you can catch our archive page and all of our past interviews. Really good interview with Gary Byrne, author of Crisis of Character, on the archive page, so feel free to catch that one. Folks, we're going to get into some home improvement, some local talk here. We got Jared Benson here live in studio.
Good morning, Mike.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Great morning.
We haven't seen you live for a while, so it's good to see you. By the way, folks, the website, permapeer.com. And, of course, if you need to talk to Jared and the folks over at PermaPure Foundation Repair of Texas, it's 214-637-1444. So good to see you. And so what's going on?
Hey, man,
Summer.
August is next month. That's right. We're getting to the hottest part of the year, the driest part of the year, and so our business is picking up.
Good.
Yeah.
This is maybe good
not
for
good
you,
for
but
you.
maybe
I know,
not
yeah.
necessarily great for the homeowners. But hey, look, here in DFW, we're all going to have foundation repair at some point in our house. Some of us already have. Some of us have had multiple times.
Unfortunately,
it's part of our life. So, and if that's the case, it's part of our life. We want to make sure we use the best, and that's you guys.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And so today, since it is that time of the year where things tend to be the worst and you have the most problems and everything's going on, and, it's a great time for it, right? You're trying to do your vacations and your kids are home and your house is shifting and your doors are sticking and everything else. But I want to talk a little bit about what to be on the lookout for in this season of the year, as well as some things you might can do to help prevent those issues. But first, I'd like to ask you, I turned it around on you today. I'm going to ask you a question or two.
All right. Fire away.
As a realtor, what is it that you're looking for when it comes to foundation issues? What specifically are you looking for with your clients, or what is it that you're on the lookout for to make a decision on when you need to call somebody?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I've seen a lot of houses, and honestly, it's obvious.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, basketball. I officiated high school basketball for about 9 years back in the day, and it was, real simple. We all said, call the obvious. And if it looks like a foul, it was a foul. But so when we go into the house, it's going to be obvious. There's going to be humps. There's going to be valleys that are obvious. You're walking maybe downhill as you walk from one point in the room to the corner of a room. There's maybe going to be some additional visual cues, heavy-duty cracking in the brick.
Yeah.
Maybe some obvious cracks in the foundation exterior, and then maybe heavy-duty cracks in the sheetrock, the minor ones we get all the time, no big deal.
Yeah.
But they all kind of have to go together, and a lot of that I've learned, from you, of course, and but just having seen so many houses, it's obvious.
Yeah, and it is. It's all when there's a significant foundation issue, it is obvious. Sometimes a realtor might ask, should I call you guys out on every house I look at? And I have to say, please don't.
Right.
Use your common sense. If something looks wrong, it might be wrong.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to really talk about today, so that's what you look for current issues. But there are some signs that to look for that to avoid issues coming up in the future. That makes sense.
Sure.
And most of that's in the soil. And so this time of year when you generally haven't had very much rain, generally you're going through a drought season. You might have had some rain recently, but it's not enough to make a difference. And we're expecting another month or 2 or 3 of very little moisture.
Right.
It's the clay in the soil starts to dry out, starts to crack, starts to separate. And I'm sure you've been through the Dallas and Collin County areas and seen those cracks in the front yards. And, I've got pictures of a guy who has his whole arm up to the mid forearm in a hole like that, in someone's front yard.
Right.
It was actually a warranty call, and they wondered why the rest of their house was moving.
Hello. Yeah. It's a bit dry.
Yeah.
It's a water hose.
Yeah. And so the thing is, if you can take note of that and do things to prevent further issues, it's going to be as much as you can do to prevent you from paying for foundation repairs like you're talking about. Almost everybody has.
Right.
The house I bought had previous repairs, and I had to repair it more when I moved into it. So being able to notice those things, and a lot of those signs are, again, the soil drying out, cracking, separating, and then pulling away from the foundation. You'll start to see kind of a line or a crack between the soil line and your grade beam around the perimeter of the home.
Right.
And when you see those types of things, really the best thing to do is water your yard, which can be hard to do in some cities around here. And we were talking before the show how you think that maybe in the summertime they like to hike their water prices.
It seems like they do. I remember years back where, the bill never really went up that high. I mean, using the sprinkler system, watering the lawn. I mean, we get 100-degree heat all the time. It's not like that's changing any. And it seemed like maybe $75, $80 was the tops. And the last few years, I gotten up to a couple $100.
Yeah.
And I don't know if maybe that's because they put those new meters in, because they put in those new water meters.
You got to pay for those new smart water meters somehow, right?
I guess so. And they figure, well, you're watering more, we'll charge you more. I don't know, but seems like something suspicious is going on now. I don't know.
Yeah. And then when it comes to watering, a lot of times people ask, well, how much or how do I do it or what system should I use? And even I would until recently would tell people, the cheapest way to do it's a soaker hose. And all, lots of realtors have heard of soaker hoses, and that they kind of think that's the fix everything solution when it comes to your foundation.
Mm-hmm.
But recently we had an engineer come in and speak to our company, all of our evaluators, all of our operations guys, all our, everyone else. And unfortunately I didn't get to be there, but I got to watch some video. We made sure we videoed it. His name is Carl Brecken down in the Houston area, and he works with other people, not just us, but we brought him in to help, continuing education for our guys. And he was saying something that I hadn't heard before. He doesn't like soaker hoses. He doesn't like sprinkler systems that you have to, plug in, the kind that just kind of rotate back and forth that you play in as a kid.
Right.
Because of the human error, as he put it. And I made so much sense, because more than once I've had a hose hooked up to a sprinkler system, went to sleep and forgot it, let it run all night. So I've done that. He doesn't like soaker hoses because they work off the pressurization from that water. Well, the problem is if it's a 20, maybe 50-foot hose, you have more pressure in the first part of the hose than the second part of the hose.
Right.
So you're going to get an inconsistent level of moisture across the length of that hose. And you're going to have more moisture seeping out in the first part, less in the other part, which could lead to some heaving on one portion of the home where you're getting too much moisture.
Okay.
So it's just kind of interesting. A lot of people haven't thought through that. I worked for a foundation repair company, hadn't really thought through it.
Mm-hmm.
He actually pretty much only recommends automated sprinkler systems put on a timer. Something that you don't touch. The human, to remove human error, doesn't touch, doesn't mess with, doesn't turn on, doesn't turn off.
Right.
And I thought the blaming it on human error was very, very funny. Coming, that engineering mind tends to think like that.
Right. Not surprising.
No, not surprising at all.
Because they have computers in their head.
Yeah.
Is he a human, or is he a cyborg? What?
I personally haven't met him, so I have no idea.
I don't know. Yeah, you're right. And at the end of the day, look, preventing foundation repair or maintaining your level of foundation after it's been repaired, at the end of the day, it's going to be about water management. We talk about water management all the time. When we get heavy rains, managing that water, that excess water correctly.
Yep.
And then in the dry seasons, watering enough, but still not too much.
Yeah, exactly. And really the main idea, the biggest thing you want to aim for is a consistent level of moisture.
Yeah.
Because in those downpours, that soil's going to absorb a bunch of it and expand a little bit. So you want to kind of get that water away from the foundation as quickly as possible. At the same time, some of it needs to get in there. Mm-hmm. And then in the summertime, you just got to give it enough to keep it from really shrinking and settling down. So really consistency is key. Mm-hmm. If you could keep it 100% moisturized, it wouldn't move, obviously. If you could keep it 100% dry, it wouldn't move. Mm-hmm. But that's not really possible here in Texas.
Yeah, that's not necessarily realistic either. Yeah, you just do the best that you can do. Well, good information as always. Hey, folks, look, we all going to need foundation repair at some point. You may have already had it. You may need it again. It is what it is here in DFW. Hey, Permapeer Foundation Repair of Texas is who you want to call. Jared Benson. Hey, 214-637-1444 and the website permapeer.com. Make sure you tell them you heard it on the Inside Real Estate Radio Show. Folks, we're going to take a short break. Come on back.
I'm Nick Soboleski, a Select Quote agent with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a $300,000 group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and can't take it with him. Well, I impartially shopped the highly rated term life insurance companies we represent and found Ray, who is 41 and takes medication to control his cholesterol, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $26 a month. That's almost twice the coverage for less than half of what he had paid. If SelectQuote hasn't shopped for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote, call 1-800-467-1443. That's 1-800-467-1443. 1-800-467-1443. Or go to SelectQuote.com. We shop. You save. Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Your price can vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors not available in all states.
Far from the shores of home, two African-American U.S. Army privates fight for their lives on the battlefronts of World War II. The first Black War correspondents fight to cover the perspective of the black soldier. The novel A Private War, it weaves all this and more into an epic World War II era story of friendship, conflict, religion, and redemption. Get a copy of Private War, a novel by Perry Cockrell today, now available on Amazon.com. And tune in regularly to Inside Real Estate Sundays, 8 to 9 9 a.m. to hear Perry Cockrell, attorney at law, as he provides expert analysis of the latest and greatest in legal news.
Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey, folks, we're back. Inside Real Estate, sports, entertainment, politics. We got it all. Hey, time to talk a little insurance with Mr. Richard Tonica over at Goosehead Insurance.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
I'm excellent. Richard, and we were talking in the break about those smart meters for, water. We were asking Richard if he had one installed over at his place yet, because he's in Arlington just like I am. And
I'm absolutely clueless.
You're
on
not
the
sure if you got one. Well, we were talking about the poor meter guys, because I was talking to the guys that installed mine, and this was a while back. It was a year or so ago. And they're like, yeah, pretty much all of us are installing our demise, because most of us are getting laid off because they don't need the meter reader anymore, because they're this little thing pops up evidently, and the satellite reads it, and then boom, goes to the city of Arlington water department, and boom, there you go. So poor guys. But anyway, let's get into insurance talk. Let's what do we got today?
Well, we're going to talk about, I've had more than a few customers that have had to do some kind of repair on their roof or any number of things. And so kind of wanted to talk about the steps of going through the claims process, and how do you pick your contractor or the person that's going to fix your whatever needs to be fixed within your house, because the TDI, Texas Department of Insurance, always comes out with these different articles, and one of them is this. And I'm always pointing people to Texas Department of Insurance, because if they want to compare insurance companies, or if they're not familiar with this particular company or whatever, it's a great source of information. And so I try to be as transparent as possible. And so if they want to see anything, I don't try to hide anything. I don't have anything to hide, really. I a lot of times I point people to TDI. But anyway, that being said, when we're talking about putting in a claim, the first thing I tell people is choose someone that if you trust their work, and then go get one or two more bids.
Right.
Make sure that you do everything in writing, because if it's not in writing and you don't know the full scope of work, you don't know if company A is giving you a better deal, or if it's going to be company B or your friend, because a simple price, as we well know, doesn't mean really too much of anything. Anybody can give you a great price and give you an inferior product. So you have to know what their scope is. So that's the reason that you always get everything in writing.
Right. Or say, that wasn't included later on. But you want that, right? Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
That was an add-on, and we didn't really account for this.
That's right.
So when we're looking at this, we know exactly what we're comparing to. And then if there's something extra that you want in on your particular job, or you want to make something that's not covered, how much does that cost as well? Because we need to put all that in so that you're looking at an apples to apples. And yes, I am more hands-on than a lot of agents, because I want to make sure that my customers are taken care of. I want to make sure that not only if something pops up again, that everything that was done before was done properly. That way, if it wasn't done properly and something happens again, it's not another claim. We go to that company and we say, hey, where's your warranty? This is covered by the warranty of the work that you did for this particular customer. And so going in and kind of holding their hand and walking through the process with them on these is in all of our best interest. Mm-hmm. Because when you put in a claim, it's going to be the same deductible every time you put in a claim. And if you put in too many claims, you're going to be looking for a new insurance, because more than likely the insurance that you have is going to go away.
That's right, because insurance is about paying them, not them paying you. Let's get this right. But that's why you want to talk to Richard, because he's going to get you good policy at a good price.
Yes.
Richard takes care of you.
And there are certain companies that they surcharge you more for certain types of claims, and there are going to be other companies that aren't going to be as bad. So,
right.
So other than that, so one of the things that the TDI says, and one of the things that I love, I'm sure we all do, use local companies. You got to have someone local. You don't want, just like insurance, you don't want to have to call an 800 number to try and speak to someone, a new person, every time to explain what you're doing and what's going on and everything else.
Very frustrating.
You have someone there. You have someone, a person that you can hold accountable for the delays or what's going on that actually has a vested interest in what's going on with you. So, and then one of the other things is don't pay up front. Make sure that you give the retainer fee to get them to do the work, and then a bulk of it isn't done until after the job is done. But don't ever pay up front. And I get sad when I hear about people that actually do that and then they've been scammed. Unfortunately, you pay a little up front, and if you get scammed, then at least it wasn't as bad as paying the whole thing up front and then having to pay everything again to actually get it done.
Right. Yeah, because a lot of times you can't get these folks back out there, and that's a real pain in the rear. That's good sage advice right there. Don't pay it all up front for sure.
So
a lot of times, sometimes, look, contractors are super busy. So a lot of times the people that we know in real estate, Terry knows, Jared knows, a lot of times they're not available.
Exactly.
And you want, here's the thing, you want something done now. I mean, for example, the clients that we just got into that house over in Carrollton, we was trying to get a painter over there for them. I got two of them over there, but the ones I wanted to call first and try to get in the first, they were all too busy. And so I went with a recommendation from another realtor on one of them, and then put another one in from another recommendation on a realtor. But you got to get more quotes. And a lot of times the people that we know are busy and they're backed up because they do a good job.
Yes.
And so get those multiple quotes for sure.
Exactly. And
okay.
So, I mean, it's our job to make sure that the customers are taken care of, and we're here to help.
Absolutely. Folks, it's richardtagency.com, richardtagency.com. That's Richard Tonica, 817-286-2002, 817-286-2002, over at the Goosehead Insurance Agency. For all of your insurance needs, give him a call. Trust me, if you give him a call, you're going to get a better policy at a better price. You're going to be well taken care of. He's right here in the DFW area, centrally located in Arlington. Give him a buzz. Folks, we're going to take a short break. Come on back. With over 3.5 million square feet in 5 DFW locations, Ideal Floors has you covered for all your flooring needs. Whether you're looking for carpet, tile, laminate, wood, or vinyl plank, Ideal Floors has you covered. And with their price match guarantee and their 100% satisfaction guarantee, they are the absolute best in DFW for all your flooring needs. Call Kevin Hamus, the owner of Ideal Floors, at 214-789-0422 or go to idealfloors.com for all your flooring needs.
The Richard Tonica Insurance Agency in Arlington has nearly unlimited resources when it comes to getting you the best insurance rates and policies for home, auto, and more. As part of the Goosehead Insurance brand, you, the consumer, have the power of choice through the Richard Tonica Insurance Agency network. Richard can quote over 20 A-rated companies to find the best fit for you, the best policy at the best price. Call Richard today at 817-286-2002. It's the Richard Tonica Goosehead Insurance Agency, 817-286-2002.
Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey folks, welcome back to the house. Here we go, more Inside Real Estate talk. We got Mortgage Talk with Terry Wagner.
Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Miss Terry. How are you?
I'm doing great this morning. How about you?
I'm good.
Good.
And by the way, your number where folks can reach you is 866-607-5667. And you want to call Terry for all of your mortgage and refinance, Texas cash out needs.
Yes, please call us.
Yes, please do.
Yes.
And by the way, thank you for saving the deal. We kind of talked about it before that we were working on it, but you saved a deal. I had a client that was with Chase Bank, and all their money was with Chase Bank, and then Chase totally flaked out.
Yeah, I
and
still
you saved it, and we just closed it.
Yeah, I still don't understand how they couldn't do it, number one, and why they just kind of dropped the ball. And that's just what they did. They just kind of passed it off back to you and said, sorry, well, we're not going to be able to do this loan, but gave you no reason.
Exactly. No real communication. But, of course, Terry, the consummate professional and our ultimate closer.
That's right.
got the deal done. I mean, no nonsense. She picked it up. She's like, oh, no problem. We got it.
Yeah.
and took care of it. So thank you.
We have an awesome team.
Yes, you do.
We got it done. Well, I wanted to talk. I have just kind of a couple of different subjects that I want to talk on quickly today. First is just kind of an FYI for anyone. We've talked about USDA several times. USDA is a great product, but they're kind of backed up right now. When you do a USDA loan, you have to get basically a clear to close with our underwriters, and then it is shipped off to USDA for them to do the same thing, to underwrite, to kind of make sure it fits all of their guidelines.
Right.
They were a couple of weeks backed up just for the USDA underwrite. They did get it down to 1 week, but we received notice last week that across the board, all USDA offices will be closed for the week of August the 8th through the 12th. Just FYI. If you have a USDA loan or you just wrote a USDA contract, you're probably going to have to extend it if it's just a 30-day contract.
Okay.
Because my best guess is when they come back, they're already a week behind. Mm-hmm. Then they're going to be the week they were gone, and they'll have all that new business that came in. So they're probably going to be anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks for an underwrite at USDA. Okay. Just FYI.
Fair enough. Enough.
Another guideline update.
Why are they doing that in the summer?
Yeah, I don't know.
Can they do that in the winter when it's slower?
Well, I think that they've come up with some new regulations that they're going with, and they're doing training. Now, why they didn't, half it up, half of the company do training this week, and so they don't have to close down altogether, I don't really know. No explanation, but USDA is going through some changes. We've noticed that. We've noticed that they've tightened up on some of their regulations, so we'll have to spend a show talking about USDA.
Okay, fair enough.
Then another just quick update on the guidelines that I wanted to bring up. FHA, everybody loves an FHA loan. We've talked about income where you have if you have unreimbursed business expenses on your tax returns. How many times have we talked about just tax returns? It's so important that you get your tax returns to your lender right at the very beginning of the process, because that can really mess up your loan if you wait till later. So you've got a lot of people have unreimbursed business expenses. I have them. I'm going to guess you have them. Everyone who's anywhere close to commissioned or travels outside of the office to do their job has unreimbursed business expenses. Right. Good news, Mike.
Really?
Yes, good news.
Yay.
If you are a regular W-2 income buyer and less than 25% of your income comes from commissions or bonuses, so you're just a regular Joe making a W-2 income, if you have those unreimbursed business expenses, we don't have to count them. We don't have to take a look at your tax returns now.
That's all right.
Now, if your income, if 25% or more of your income is derived from commissions, then we're going to have to go back and do that, but and take a look at tax returns. But I thought that was a really cool guideline update that I wanted to bring to you. So, if we've got an issue with a lot of unreimbursed business expenses, we'll take a look at maybe doing it FHA and not having to count those.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Fair enough.
All right, so then I wanted to just talk. I don't know how much time we have, Mike. Not very much.
Yeah, we got a few minutes to go. We're good.
I get a publication. It's called Scotsman's Guide. It's a monthly publication. It's generated mostly to mortgage originators, and it talked about the difference in the vision for the housing financing in our political world right now. So I thought I would do that in light of our guest today.
There you go.
So obviously the Republicans and the Democrats have vastly different opinions on how to make this work. So the Republicans have they have different roles, different visions. Republicans are wanting to make the case for cutting government regulation. They want to do that in everything they do anyway. They want to cut government oversight, which is a good thing. Should I say that?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, me too. So they are very critical. Republicans are very critical of the sweeping reform that hit us in 2010 with the Frank Dodd and the CFPB. The Republicans actually have a term for the CFPB law that came out in 2010. They call it legislative Godzilla. I didn't know that. But they call it that because it's crushing small and community banks and other lenders. And it really is. A lot of our brokers and smaller lenders, they just had to go away.
Right.
Just because of the regulation. They can't keep up with all the government regulation that's been put in place. And so Donald Trump's quote for housing, Frank Dodd has made it impossible for bankers to function. Makes it very hard for bankers to loan money, for people to create jobs, for people with businesses to create jobs, and that has to stop. Okay? So then let's look at the other side.
Yeah.
We'll look at the Democrats. They want tougher regulations. They want more government oversight over the housing market.
Boo.
And, yes, and I don't know that I agree with that, but they want to invest more money in CFPB, and that's part of all of this regulation that went into effect in 2010. So they want to throw more money at the regulation that's overseeing it. Hillary Clinton's quote, "The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau," that's CFPB, "has only one mission: protecting Americans from unfair and deceptive financial practices, and it is succeeding." So greatly differing views on each side of the aisle there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. When it comes to mortgage lending, I mean, look, there's got to be a fair balance of,
right.
But at the end of the day, it's up to the bank on how they're lending and assessing risk. Look, they're the ones doing the lending. Assess the risk and go from there.
Right.
And obviously, we need, reasonable government regulations on everything.
I agree with that.
To keep everybody in line. Everybody gets too crazy sometimes, giving loans to people that, just have a pulse, but when the government's telling you to do that behind the scenes.
Exactly.
And that it's okay to do that, well,
And then we get our hands
our
slapped.
free market is going to say, yeah, sure, let's do it. Write those loans. Write them, because they're getting paid. Damned with the consequences. They're coming down the line.
Right. But with all these new regulations that went into effect and all the new forms and everything that we've put in place, the whole purpose supposedly was to help inform the buyer, the consumer, more on their loan. And that I don't believe that's happened. I believe that it's confused our borrowers even more. I don't believe that this new loan estimate versus the good faith estimate, I don't believe it did its job in keeping the borrower informed on what they're doing.
Right.
The information is put out there to them a little more concise and a little more readable, but it's still very confusing. They added more information that it's just confusing.
Right.
It just confuses the borrower. And it's okay that we have to explain that. I don't mind explaining all the numbers to the borrower, but it did not simplify the process.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we need to let the banks, let the professionals do what they need to do. We need the government regulations. We want to make sure that the consumer is understanding what they're getting.
Right.
Of course, but how ignorant do you need to be to see that you're getting an arm, and
yeah,
that is, hey,
take a look at what you're doing. Question the person that you're dealing with.
Exactly. Look at what you're doing and sign off on what you're doing. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, you're right. Absolutely, we need a good, fair balance, and there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd never mind a borrower asking as many questions. I love it when they say, I have a stupid question. None of them are stupid questions.
No, ask as many questions as you can.
Ask away. It's our job to answer those questions for the borrower as they come up and to completely make sure that they understand the process that they're going through. That's my job, is to make sure that they understand what they're signing and why they're signing it.
Absolutely.
So.
All right, well, fair enough. Well, folks, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come on back. I believe we've got Dinesh D'Souza on the line for us holding, so that looks good. We're going to take a short break and then come on back.
Folks, it's Mike Kruizinga here with Inside Real Estate Sports Entertainment on 570 AM KLIF. Did you know that virtually all of us will experience a fall in the bathtub at some point in our life? Well, statistically, it's true, and as we get older, a fall in the bathtub can spell disaster, as we just can't recover the same as we did in our younger years. Don't let something as silly and preventable as a bathtub fall put an end to all your special plans you have lined up for your golden years. Invest in a Hydrojet walk-in bathtub. Made in the USA and with the lowest step in the industry, Hydrojet walk-in tubs has your best interest at heart. With no commission sales staff or huge warehouse overhead, they build and sell direct to you, saving you thousands of dollars over their competitors. Call Randy, my friend and owner of Hydrojet Walk-in Tubs at 855-980-8827 or go to hydrojetwalkintubs.com. You'll be able to speak with Randy directly, and make sure to mention you heard about it on the radio. And for you veterans out there, there's a grant available for you to cover the majority of the cost of a walk-in tub, making it darn near free. Call Randy at 855-980-8827 or go to hydrojetwalkintubs.com today.
With decades of experience, the Rocky Martin Supreme Lending Team will work to close your home loan in 30 days or less. With access to the most competitive interest rates, the most financing options, and the most access to down payment assistance programs, the Rocky Martin Team won't be beating service to you for all your mortgage needs, including purchase and refinance. Trust RockyMartin.com and his team for their reliable and fast loan process. Go to RockyMartin.com or call 972-772-1866 today.
For housing lender, NMLS ID number 211731, 6730 Horizon Road, Suite B, Heath, Texas 75032.
The preceding program was furnished by K1 International LLC and is responsible for its content.
Folks, we are back. How we doing out there? Okay, we lost our joiner, but we're good. All right, let's see. We've got our very special political guest on our politics segment here. Folks, very special guest, Dinesh D'Souza. Dinesh, are you on the line with us?
I'm right here.
Very good. Well, thank you very much for joining us on the show, especially our local Dallas-Fort Worth area show. And I tell you, we got some very interesting messages when we put this out that you were coming on. We got a lot of great feedback. And then, of course, there's that negative feedback that's out there as well. So happy to have you on the show. Checked out the Hillary's America earlier this week when we got confirmation you were coming on the show. It was great. I've read the book. I also read Stealing America. By the way, there was a standing ovation at the end of the screening that we were in, so looks like it's doing great out there.
Yeah, I'm very happy to hear that. The movie is just in its second weekend, and it's already in the top 10 political documentaries of all time. It's the number one documentary of the year this year, 2016. This weekend will surpass Michael Moore's iconic film, Roger and Me. So we're thrilled with the way it's doing, and it's opening up a lot of eyes. I think it's helping to unify Republicans, and I hope independents and Democrats see the movie because I think it'll get them re-examining some of their assumptions and just thinking.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I thought in the movie as well as in the books, let's talk about how, you know, the theft of Republican ideas, the theft of Republican accomplishments, really since the Civil War and Abraham Lincoln. You really cover that very well in the documentary and in the books, and it's essential to discussing, you know, this overall topic today. And how did the Democratic Party steal those accomplishments and those ideals from the Republican Party, and how it's propagated by the media and by Hollywood currently?
Yeah, I mean, if you went to an ordinary Democrat or black guy and you said, "Hey, which is the party that ended slavery?" They'd probably say the Democratic Party. Which is the party that was the party of the Ku Klux Klan? They'd say, "Well, it's probably the Republican Party." The truth is the exact opposite. The Democratic Party is the party of slavery, the party of segregation, of Jim Crow, of the Klan, of lynching, forced sterilization. The Democrats are the ones who interned Japanese Americans during World War II. So amazingly, a lot of these crimes that are blamed on the South or blamed on America, they're not the fault of the South. They're not the fault of America. They're the fault of the Democratic Party. And we lay this case out in the film, and it's irrefutable. So the critics are thrashing around, but they've been unable to find a single fact in the movie or in my accompanying book, which has a lot more information than the movie, that's wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, facts are stubborn things. They are, and they're all right there. And unfortunately, Hollywood just kind of goes along with it, and the media kind of just goes along with it, and it's it's very disturbing. And but
I think you put your finger on it when you said earlier that the left dominates academia, they dominate the media and Hollywood, and those are the three big megaphones of our culture. So when you dominate those, you're able to put out a lot of propaganda, a lot of misleading information, and no one has allowed enough voice to say differently.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into the part about, obviously in 2012 you put out Obama's America, and quite possibly that led to you having to go away for a little while. Now, the Clinton appointee, Berman, decided he just wanted to rock your world. And, this guy, through reading and also going online and researching, was he just a dog on a chain and they said release the hounds, or was this a case of he just said, you know what, I've got an opportunity to really rock this guy's world because he's a Republican, he's a conservative, and him being a liberal judge, he just said, you know what, I'm going to go after him?
Now, I made a mistake in exceeding the campaign finance laws by $20,000. I didn't have any corrupt motive. I was actually giving money to a college friend of mine running for the U.S. Senate. Now, normally this is something that is not treated as a criminal matter. But in this case, the Obama administration tried to lock me up for up to 2 years. Now, frankly, if I had been locked up for 2 years, I'd be in jail right now, and I wouldn't have been able to make this movie. I think that was their goal. Now, the Clinton judge, Mr. Berman, did not go along with that, but he did sentence me to 8 months of overnight confinement. I'm not ashamed of it. I took that stuff and put it right in the movie, as you saw, and I turned the lemon into lemonade by making it a learning experience, learning something about criminal rackets, learning, in a sense, how some of the same techniques that are used by criminal gangs to shake down people, extort money from them, are used politically by Hillary and Obama and the Democratic Party to do its racketeering operations.
Yeah, so you really had an epiphany being up close and personal with them and seeing, you know what, this is exactly what the Clintons are doing, and much of the Democratic Party and the liberals on the left are doing behind the scenes in politics. They're doing exactly what criminals do on the street.
Absolutely. And very often we miss that because we think of politics as merely a kind of a debate. And when you listen to the whole song and dance routine coming out of Philadelphia last week from the Democrats, you get the idea that none of these people actually even care about themselves. They're just trying to work for us. They're devoted to the ordinary guy and the little guy. They tirelessly work for minorities. Now, first of all, historically, that's nonsense. The Democratic Party has been the deadly enemy of immigrants and minorities. It's been the enslaver and segregator of blacks. And they don't care about them any more today than they did before. Before, they just wanted to steal their labor. Now all they want is to steal their votes. And yet, they put on this big pretense so it's one thing to be a criminal. I mean, I can kind of understand Luca Brasi in The Godfather, but if Luca Brasi tried to wear a halo, that would be a bit too much. And that's the case with the Clintons. They're racketeers. This is Bonnie and Clyde. They've been running their racket since the Arkansas days. When they were in the White House, they were selling presidential pardons to big-time racketeers. And so these people are on the make. They're in it for themselves. And so to listen to all this rubbish about how they sort of are undyingly devoted to the welfare of others, it's a bit too much.
Yeah, I agree. Let's get into a little more meat and potatoes. I want to talk about Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, and I also want to get to uranium. Let's start off with Planned Parenthood. If you're an African American in this country and you are not outraged by Planned Parenthood that is stuck in mostly black neighborhoods, and Hillary Clinton is behind this. She's supported it. She's a big proponent of the Margaret Sanger thought process, and this is flat out trying to keep the African American population down and control it. If you're not outraged by that as an African American out there, then what would?
Well, the important thing to realize is that Planned Parenthood and Margaret Sanger, they're not about choice. People say, well, they want you to choose how many children you have. No. Margaret Sanger wanted wealthy white people to have more children and poor brown and black people to have fewer or no children at all. And she had this thing called the Negro Project, which was basically to reduce the Negro population through a voluntary birth control if possible, but forced sterilization if necessary. Now, the Margaret Sanger was a kind of inspiring person. She inspired the Nazis. The Nazi sterilization policies of the 30s were modeled on some of the Margaret Sanger ideas in America. And then later, Hillary Clinton recently goes to Houston to get the Margaret Sanger Award and talks about how great Margaret Sanger was. So these ideas of Margaret Sanger they're not dead. They're not buried. They're actually alive and well. And today, most Planned Parenthoods are in the inner city. And today, Planned Parenthood still has a Negro project, except it's just called Planned Parenthood.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone, not just minorities, should be worried about this because, this project, we're talking about they want the best of the best. This is eugenics. We should all be worried about this. And if you're voting for Hillary, you're saying, okay, that's okay. That's a good thing. It's a good thing to keep certain populations down because we don't like them. We want only certain people to move forward in the population. And this is ridiculous. And voting for Hillary, that's what it is. I want to get to uranium. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about Justra and how this whole process went with the Kazakhstan and then getting Russia picking up one-fifth of our uranium.
The uranium example shows how the Clintons operate and how they treat U.S. foreign policy. So the billionaire Frank Justra, a Canadian billionaire who has an interest in getting uranium contracts and uranium mining rights around the world, wanted a lucrative uranium contract in Kazakhstan. And since he couldn't get it, he went with Bill Clinton, his buddy, and the two of them went and sort of sweet-talked the dictator over there into granting this uranium concession to Frank Justra. Now, in exchange for Bill Clinton's help in securing this, Justra began to pour millions of dollars to the Clintons and to the Clinton Foundation. Hillary Clinton, by the way, sat as Secretary of State on a committee that had to approve this uranium deal because at the end of the day, this uranium company called Uranium One began to buy uranium assets in the United States. In other words, Justra's company was not content with the Kazakhstan contract, but began to buy uranium here. And then the Justra company was acquired by the Russian government. So in effect, we were talking not about Justra controlling American uranium, but Vladimir Putin controlling American uranium. Well, Hillary Clinton signs off on the deal along with some other agencies. The sale goes through, and then tens of millions of dollars in payoff money flows into the Clinton Foundation. So you see the maneuver. Step one, Bill is kind of the down payment guy. He collects the first money. Then Hillary modifies American policy to do what the donor wants, and then the donor, in quote, gratitude, dispatches tens of millions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation. So this is basically, you could call it a selling of American foreign policy racket. And this is what Hillary says, I traveled millions of miles when I was Secretary of State, but in terms of actual policy, she accomplished nothing. No treaties, no trouble spots healed, and not even an important conference around the world. But what she's doing is basically looking out for herself, looking out for the foundation, making money on the side, operating as a kind of individual broker, collecting 10% wherever she goes.
Right, absolutely. And the fact that she was sitting in office while this was happening, and then, okay, you're like, okay, quid pro quo with... but once Russia became involved, okay, and all of a sudden U.S. uranium assets are going to Russia through the sale of this company. To me, this goes even above and beyond everything they've done so far, and this goes to treason. Is this not treason?
Well, it would be treason. Ironically, if you look at the people who have been spies against America, who sold nuclear secrets to the Russians, the Philby conspiracy in London, the Rosenbergs. Ironically, those people were dedicated communists. They were doing it because they believed in the communist ideology. The shamefulness of the Clintons is they don't really believe in anything. Even Obama's ideological. Obama has an ideological goal. Now, I think it's a twisted, perverted goal, but nevertheless, there it is. The Clintons are all about themselves. This is Bonnie and Clyde in the White House. And so they've been running these rackets for a long time, but it's terrifying to think of what they would do if the ultimate levers of power were put in the hands of these two depraved crooks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's think about this. If when she was Secretary of State, she helped run through giving 1/5 of all of our uranium assets here in the U.S. And let's talk about uranium. I mean, hello, this is a nuclear-grade weapon. It can be used for weapons of mass destruction, and we're saying, okay, we'll give that to basically our chief rival in Russia. To me, that's treasonous. Think about what she might do if she actually makes it into the Oval Office. Absolutely unbelievable. Let's, we're running short on time, and I know I'm fast-pacing you, and I apologize, but I just wanted to get so much in. Let's bring it on back to Texas. Quite honestly, Texas, if the Cruz Republicans stay home, then quite possibly Texas could go to Hillary. And, a lot of folks that were Cruz fans, was very close here in Texas. A lot of Cruz fans do not like Trump. And that worries me greatly, and particularly with, our strong liberal presence in Dallas County here in DFW, but then, of course, strong liberal presence in Austin, San Antonio, and Houston as well.
Yeah.
What do we need to do here in Texas? What do we need to do here in Texas?
Look, I love Texas. I actually live part-time in Texas. My wife, Debbie, is from Houston. We were married a few months ago, and we were actually married by Rafael Cruz, Ted's dad. So we love Ted Cruz. But let me say this. American politics is fought in teams. There is no way to stop the Hillary Democrats without voting for the Trump Republicans. There is no third option. And so this never Trump stuff has got to stop. It's entering into the twilight zone. It should be never Hillary. And so if you let me say, our website for the movie, Hillary'sAmericaTheMovie.com, it's playing all over Dallas. It's playing all over the country, 1,200 theaters. But if you plug in your zip code, it'll tell you where it's playing near you. Go see the movie and get the book, because this will equip you. It'll show you the stakes involved. It'll fire you up. As I said earlier, the movie helps unify Republicans, and it helps us show that at the end of the day, this is something in which we've got to stop Hillary and this Democratic gang from doing what they've been doing to the country for a long time. But right now, the American dream hangs in the balance. Too much is at stake.
Absolutely. I highly recommend, folks, you need to go check out Hillary's America. It's in the theaters. Grab the book, and grab the book that just came out late last year that kind of goes with it, Stealing America. You need to know what you're up against out there when you're thinking about, well, maybe I'll just vote for Hillary because, it's first woman, we'll make history. We're talking about acts of, in my opinion, treason, folks, and what would she do in the office? You talk about the American dream at the stake, and you're absolutely right. And one thing I wanted to end on, a positive note, something that you said in the documentary when you were talking about teaching English, and you said anyone can come here and become an American, and that's very unique because you can't go anywhere else and become that nation. You can't go to Mexico and become a Mexican. You can't go to India and become an Indian. But yet anybody can come to America and integrate and become part of America and become an American, and that's very unique. And I thought that was extremely well said and goes, I think, to everybody's heart.
Absolutely. We become an American by embracing the laws, the Constitution, and assimilating to the American way of life. And those are the kind of immigrants we want. And if you don't believe in that and you don't want to do that, stay home.
I agree. Well said. Mr. D'Souza, thank you so much for coming on the show. Sorry to rapid pace you through all of that, but I had so much I wanted to talk to you about. Extremely appreciate you on the show. Folks, everybody catch Hillary's America. It's on screen now, and grab the books with Dinesh D'Souza. Thank you, Dinesh, so much for being on the show.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, folks, another great episode this week. By the way, we're live next Sunday, 8 to 9, just like we are every Sunday. Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters will be on the show next Sunday. Folks, Mike Kruizinga, your host. We're out of here.
News and information 570 AM.
96.3 FM HD2. KLIF Dallas. KSES FM HD2 Fort Worth. KLIF.com.
A Cumulus station.